So what we had discussed in last class? What we had discussed in last class? Hmm? Okay. So we discussed about folder structure of a React. Okay. So list down the folder structure. Before, you need to tell the answers without seeing what? Folder structure. So tell me, what is the first folder we have? What is the first folder we have? Node modules. Very good. Next one is public, and then we have SRC. It contains assets, app.css, app.jsx, main.jsx. Very good. Index.css. Perfect. And it contains what? Index.html. Nice. Huh? Any other? Very good. So next one. So package log.json. Very good. Nice. Package.json. Nice. Then we have. So I think something is there. ENLint. Something is there, na? ESLint config.js. Something is there. You might forget this. Okay, fine. Next, package.json. Then next, readme.md. Very good. Readme.md. And what is the last one? Important. y.config.js. y.config.js. Okay. So you have to remember all the files. Okay. So what is the path? What is the path we need to follow to render React element on UI? What is the path we have to follow? First, what is there? Index.html is there. Inside what we had rendered? Main.jsx. Inside what we had rendered? Main.jsx. So inside this main.jsx, what is there? Component name.jsx. Component name.jsx. So what JSX contains? What JSX contains? So it contains JavaScript. So inside this JavaScript, HTML code inside to the JavaScript. Okay. So what type of code we can write? We can write two types of codes. One is component based code, like which is class components code, and next one is functional components code. Very good. So now, what is class component? What is class components? Tell me, if I go fastly, we'll go slower, no problem. What is class component and what is functional component? What is functional component? So before that, tell me what is component. So component is a reusable piece of code. Very good. It is building blocks of UI. Okay. So components will render within single HTML page called index.html. Okay, single HTML page called index.html. So every component will have the extension called .jsx. Everyone will have the extension called .jsx. Extension called .jsx. Very good. Fine. So if someone asks what is component, at least talk about these 4 points. Okay. So again, we have types of components. What are those? Class components and functional components. Both will do same progress. Okay. So if you are using class components, it will do the same work. If you use the functional components again, it will also do the same work. But we need to choose which way is better based on number of lines of code. And next one is how much time it will take to execute your code. Okay. So if you take in software, you are writing any piece of code, only we need to have two consideration. One is time complexity. Next one is space complexity, in the sense how much memory you are using. Okay. So we need to compare between what? Class components and functional components. Okay. So now tell me, what is the class components? The components which will maintain state and life cycle methods by itself. By itself. So these kind of components, we call it as what? Class components. So when you come to the functional components, similarly, you can write the definition like this. So class components are the JavaScript classes which will extend features from React dot component. It will extend feature from React from component, and it will maintain. There is no what we say a mug-up definition. It is all with a flow. So yesterday you had seen one syntax, right? We written class name extends from React dot component, correct? So in your React we have already a component is there. That features you are inheriting into current class component. You're inheriting to current class component. That is what I written. So class components are the JavaScript classes which will extend the features. If you don't want to use this, then write inheritance. But when you are writing a syntax in JavaScript, if you are if you want to inherit anything, you need to write a keyword called extends. So for your clarification, you can write what? Which will extend features or properties, whatever you want. So let me write properties, which will extend properties from React component, and it will maintain the state and lifecycle methods by itself. Okay. So now how a class component will maintain a state? So it will maintain state by this dot state. So what is this? This is a keyword. Very good. This is a keyword. It will always represent current class object. It will always represent current class object. Very good. So can I ask a question? Can I ask a question now? Let me consider we have a class called some bank. Okay. So which you are extending from, I'm not writing syntax, just get the concept. I'm extending this from React component. I'm extending this from where? React component. So later on that, I was writing some constructor for what? Bank. I was writing some constructor for what? Bank. So inside this constructor, I was initializing my values. Okay. So let me have a values called name. I was some value called SBI. Okay. So now this constructor is there. Correct. Listen my points. Very, very, very important thing. We have a class. What is the user defined class here? Bank. So what is the predefined class from React? React dot component. So you are extending properties from React component to the bank. React component to the bank. So very good. So now I had written one constructor. Okay. So now I'm just calling a bank. How to call a bank? By creating a object. So let me create an object. Let object 1 equal to new bank of. So now you're doing like this. Just understand, are you calling the parent component? So you are not creating object to the parent component, but you are trying to exporting that, like extending that to the child, and you are able to create an object. Okay, so first what you have to do, you need to create an object for React.component, but which is a predefined, which is what? Predefined. So we don't know how to create this. So that you have to use a thing called super. You have to use a keyword called super keyword. So inside that you have to pass an object for is props. So this props is object for which class? React component class. I'm not confusing you, very clear. We have a two classes. Your user defined classes, you are able to create what? Object, then that code will exist. But that class is extending from where? Predefined class, which is React.component. Similarly, to get the features from that, we need to also call which class? Component class. Okay. So to execute parent class, or to call the parent class, we need to call with the help of which keyword? Super keyword. Super keyword will calls the parent component in a child with the help of an object called props. Here props is an object which will pass input to the React component by the help of super. So simply I say super is used to call the parent classes within the child class by passing the parameter as value as or object as props. You got it? You got it now? So why super? To call the parent component with the help of an object called props. Okay, so what is props? What is props? Properties, which is also predefined in your React. In the sense, your React.component contains the features of state, props, all these things. So now what you are doing? You are getting one feature and inheriting into your child class. Okay, you got it? Let me have an example with the class components then. Okay, so today the final thing is you people need to understand state. Okay, so not Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, we have to understand the state. So what is state? Immutable object. So the value is changing. So before giving a statement, we have to do it a practical way. Correct? So before giving a statement, I told you what? Class component will maintain state by itself. Okay? So make sure I had written one component, React.component, and it will maintain state by and lifecycle methods by itself. We'll see this later. Okay, so now our focus on what? State. And finally, end of today, you need to understand difference between class components and functional components. That is our agenda today. Okay, so let me open an application. Okay, so now I have some file called demo.jsx. Okay, so after writing this code, where I need to import this? Main.jsx. Then this component will render on where? Browser. Perfect. Any doubts up to now about the super keyword? Online students? Super keyword access the constructor predefined classes. Perfect. What is the shortcut to write class components? R CC. Give an enter. So now, which is component from where? React. And what is our class name? Demo. What is our class name? Demo. So if you want to return a design code, you have to use which method? Render method followed by return method. Render method followed by return method. So first always try to write a design code. So you are going to become a good programmer when you are clear with what you have to do. So always try to write first design code, which we want to display on where? Browser. So currently what I need to display is regarding to the state. In the sense, when I was doing some operation, the value need to be changed. So let me develop a counter. Okay, let me develop a counter. So now I need initial value of counter is what? 0. And next beside like on below of that, I need on button. So when I click on button, I need to call some function. Here we were not calling a function, we were creating an object. we'll say that thing. So here what we were doing is, here also we can going to write a function and we were call it that inside which components? Class components. Okay, let's see, we need to have one button. That is correct. How many buttons we want? One button. So if you want to call any function, what event handler is required? On-click event handler is required. So I was thinking that I need to have a function with the name of word increment. With the name of word increment. And here I need to display a button called INC. A button called INC. I was thinking that I need to display my result as a React element that I have to write within the square brackets. So not square, curly braces. Whatever you written in a curly brace, we call it as what? React element. Okay, whatever in design code, whatever you had written within a curly brace, we call it as what? React element. Is render method is present in the components class? Yes, it is there in components class. Default structure. So we were telling that, so for this particular thing, render the return. See, you return render method, inside that you have what? Return method. Just see the code, you have a render method followed by curly brace. Inside that what is there? Return method is there. Perfect. So now we are good with our design code. Now I want to write some logic or class components, whatever it may be. So first we need to write word constructor, which will use it to initialize the values. Very good. So we need to write word constructor and we were passing word props. We were passing word props. So inside this, you need to initialize the values. You need to initialize the values. And before that, let me also write word super props, which is used to call your component class, which is to call your component class. And here I was taking one object, like I was taking the object called person. I was taking object called person. So inside this, I have attribute called name. I have an attribute called name. So I was writing this dot name equal to person. This is the colon where we need to pass this. So object we were passing some name. That name we have to assign for this dot keyword. Which extends to write tags easier. Now, how to write the object in classes? I think we have to use colon. Maybe. Name. Do we need to use equal to here? Yes. So sometimes the syntaxes will vary from one language to another language. Please make sure that. So I have a person name and another is this dot age equal to, I have some 23. Okay, perfect. Now I have one object inside where? Constructor, which is used to initialize your value. And within a constructor, I was calling what? Super class. Okay, so you know types of constructors. What are those? Default constructor and parameterized constructor. So constructor, so which method will get executed when you create a constructor? Whatever it may be, Java, whatever language, it doesn't matter. So when you create an object, there is one method which will get execute by default. Huh? If it is Python, we say static method. Like a not static method, which is underscore init method. Okay, that will execute when we create an object to the class. Okay, so now what we were doing inside a constructor, we were initializing a value and we were calling parent class. What is our parent class here? Component. And what is our child class here? Demo. Okay, so now after this I need to write some function. After this I need to write some function. So currently we don't want this, we want count, so that what we can write is you can write this dot state